But in a way, it hurts because it's like I knew then. There are people who've known all along. We knew that we were going to get to this point. Oh my gosh, I'll get up on a soapbox when I will not. I won't let myself take over your show on my soapbox, but
that's okay.
We didn't have to be in this place. We didn't have to be here. If people would just have taken it seriously that our liberties were in danger. And here's another thing. I'm going to go off on a rant about low IQ morons. Listen, it is not a conspiracy theory like tinfoil hat cuckoo to say we're a very wealthy country. We have a massive amount of wealth and natural resources. Somebody's going to want to come and kick us off of our land so they can have that for themselves. That's called common sense. It's not like, but I don't understand, why would they like do a critical race theory thing and like dumb all of the American males down with a Ritalin? I don't understand. You must be a conspiracy kook, because it's like, it's so logical. Of course they would want to weaken all of the American children. Of course they would want to make people feel like our citizenship isn't a value. Of course they would do all of these things. It points in the same direction of they want to control the natural resources because they get rich that way. Like, duh, right? Dummy. I'm sorry. I'll go on and on and on. But we knew this was going to happen. And now here we are. And I'm going to cop an attitude. I'm going to sound like you did this afternoon a little bit. I'm going to cop an attitude. I'm about done with the low IQ morons who have been parasites on the people who want to get something done, who want to raise their families, right? We've had these leftists who have been living off of us and feeding off of us, doing nothing to help the country move ahead, even though they're supposed to be progressive. And I've had it with them, and that's why I'm going to get on my boat and I'm going to figure out how to do it, and I'm going to sail away, because it's like I've been talking about it for so long. I get really frustrated now when I get some mom who's like, oh yeah, well, you just don't understand. No, right. I would have no idea. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm kind of getting a little bit, in a weird way, kind of finding a humor in it. And that disturbs me. It's a whole thing. Such a mess.
There is no humor in it. You do, however, have to keep yourself alive. And you have to try to keep as appropriate a perspective as you possibly can. And like I say, you opened the store, so I'm going to walk through it. I happen to have a whole bunch of quotes that I can almost remember by rote, because I was going to make a show about all of this stuff. And you're about to hear a phrase. I'm not going to make the show now, but you're about to hear a phrase that you've heard before, and this is from Benito Mussolini in a Milan speech from 1933. And when I get through with this, you tell me what phrase sounds similar to today. He said, fascism establishes the real equality of individuals before the nation. The object of the regime in the economic field is to ensure higher social justice for the whole of the Italian people. What does social justice mean? It means work guaranteed, fair wages, decent homes. It means the possibility of continuous evolution and improvement. That was 1933. He also said, from the book The Myth of the Nation and the Vision of Revolution, the outbreak of a socialist revolution in one country will cause the others to imitate it, or so to strengthen the proletariat as to prevent its national bourgeoisie from attempting any armed intervention. Armed intervention. Now, you heard that phrase, Kari Baxter Donovan. What phrase was that you heard coined by Benito Mussolini back in 1933 that is bandied about today?
Wait a minute. You're going to stump me because I have too many. I don't know.
Social justice. He mentioned social justice in 1933.
Well, that's that whole, 1933 was really the beginning of our problem that we're seeing. We're at the end of something that started in 1933. It didn't start here. Yeah, so 1933 was a very powerful year. Social justice. I have a degree in social justice. I mean, I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. So I hate that phrase. I want to barf.
Well, but as you've heard before, but wait, there's more. Germany demanded the nationalization of all trusts. They demanded profit sharing in large industries. They demanded an agrarian reform in accordance with our national requirements and the enactment of a law to expropriate the owners without compensation of any land needed for the common purpose. Right. I'm going somewhere with this. The abolition of ground rents and the prohibition of all speculation in land. The immediate communalization of large stores, which will be rented cheaply to small tradespeople. In his first radio address as chancellor, by the way, Hitler promised to overcome unemployment in Germany within 4 years. Keynes, in his German edition of General Theory, Keynes wrote, "Nevertheless, the theory of output as a whole, which is what the following book purports to provide, is much more easily adapted to the conditions of a totalitarian state than is the theory of production and distribution of a given product produced under conditions of free competition and a large measure of laissez-faire."
Right.
Were you aware, folks, also FDR said this with regard to Benito Mussolini and fascism? FDR said, "I don't mind telling you in confidence that I'm keeping in fairly close touch with that admirable Italian gentleman. Fascism is the cleanest, most efficiently operating piece of social machinery I've ever seen. It makes me envious."
And how about this? There was a story that came across the wire someplace yesterday about Antifa attacking people for not wearing face masks. So do you think that the low IQ morons out there have figured out that all of the white liberal women driving around in my country club neighborhood with their, Biden stickers, have they figured out that Antifa are the fascists? With that story of them beating people for not wearing a face mask, could they figure it out? Would that illustrate to them? That's the problem. We can read this stuff and we know what it means, and we can look back and even see where it started. We can sort of see where we're headed because we know. And but these other people who just simply can't get it, they still don't know.
We have, and I've said this
painful. I heard all of those quotes. Yeah.
Oh, but wait, there's more. Let's see, what do I have? I got 2 more minutes. No. We have what I've been calling historical Alzheimer's for decades and decades and decades. George Santayana said essentially, if you don't learn from the past, you are doomed to repeat it. Here's a bit from a book that was written by Kershaw. He said, it was this fear of social unrest, heightened by serious food shortages in Germany during the fall of 1935, themselves largely the result of government policies that played the major role in Hitler's decision to reoccupy the Rhineland in March 1936. I speak leftist and Marxist, let me translate. It's government intervention and authoritarianism and the screwing up of the supply chains that made the people, the proles, not just consider Hitler, but actively seek him and what he was proffering. Here's another quote. I love this one by Karl Marx, and then I'll hit a break and we'll be right back. Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto said, "Let the ruling classes tremble at a communistic revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains, and they have a world to win. Working men of all countries unite." Oh, I forgot there's one more quote, and I think this distills things down just wonderfully. This is Frederick Engels from also the Communist Manifesto. This is the crux of the biscuit right now, folks. In this sense, the theory of the communists may be summed up in a single sentence. Abolition of private property.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Southern Sense is conservative talk with Annie, the radio chick you bellows as host, and C.S. Bennett co-host. Informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a top conservative host on Top Talk Radio and features some of the finest guests packed with important politicians and newsmakers. Listen every Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific, on the SHR Media Network. Remember, Southern Sense is common sense.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Hi, this is Eric Thompson. Please check out my new Week in Review show, For Liberty's Sake, Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. Pacific Time. Check out forlibertysake.com.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Wave with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. I know you've been wondering where we are and what's been going on. Well, folks, that's right. We're back. So please join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. It's the final 27 minutes of the show. Tonight we have had we've had the distinct pleasure of having Kari Baxter Donovan for the entire 2 hours, and thank you ever so kindly, Kari, for being here for the entire 2 hours, because as I mentioned before, well, on the left coast right now, it's 9:33 p.m. Not bad for BC. Not bad at all. But on the far right coast, where Kari Baxter Donovan is right now, it's midnight 34. So thank you ever so kindly for being here for that.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you. I mean, I wouldn't miss it. I'm honored to be here with you, be the guest on this historic event where you have come back to your program, and I'm loving it. I will stay up all night and talk to you.
Well, thank you very much. You tell me if this sounds like it's a little familiar. There's a guy named Roberts who, again, wrote another book who said that he was attributing the food shortages to Hitler's centralized agricultural policy. Sound familiar? Which virtually eliminated food imports while implementing government controls. So the predictable result was, imagine this, Germany produced less food, causing food shortages and price increases. Happening now? I kind of tend to think so. According to Roberts, wheat went up 15%. Has wheat arisen? Yes, it has. By the way, not much land left for wheat, if you've been keeping track of that. Eggs went up 50%, butter 40%, potatoes 75%, and most meat 50%, all despite official and ineffectual price controls. Hitler, for appearance's sake, refused to lift. In North Korea, by the way you save lives in North Korea, black markets. Mm-hmm. That's the way things are right now. So when you have black markets, because that's what this creates, Then you have Stasi-like individuals whose job it is to uncover and investigate black market rings, locate other agents, other hidden persons, and you execute them. It's very simple.
We're not too far away from all of these things now, are we?
No. Here's a quote from Joseph Stalin in his address to the 16th Congress of the Russian Communist Party. I didn't know that I was going to be going here tonight, but you piqued my interest, Kari Baxter Donovan. Joseph Stalin said, "We are in favor of the withering away of the state, and at the same time we stand for the strengthening of the dictatorship of the proletariat, which represents the most powerful and mighty of all forms of the state which have existed up to the present day. The highest possible development of the power of the state, with the object of preparing the conditions of the withering away of the state. That is the Marxist formula. Is it contradictory? Yes, it's contradictory. But this contradiction is a living thing and wholly reflects the Marxist dialectic." Benito Mussolini said, "The outbreak of a socialist revolution in one country will cause the others to imitate it."
Exactly. We used to be smarter than to fall for their third world, low IQ, moronic crap. But now we're inundated with these people, and for some reason, I had a revelation when you were talking,
okay,
which is the whole Marxist revolution, and I was indoctrinated with it when I was in college. But the whole thing is about getting to the point where we are today. So they've reached their shores, they've reached their journey, they've gotten what they wanted. The left, the Marxist, communist, Leninist, all of those ists. And I don't know what you said, but all of a sudden I started thinking, so what do they do now? What do they have to live for now? They want to fight the man, the Marxists. Okay, well, we're almost there. We're very close. Then what? What will they have to live for?
We discussed, Kari Baxter Donovan and I, about how a lot of this has been affecting us. Essentially, I said I lost 2 brothers over my being politically aware. One of them was living in the San Diego area in Paradise, and now Paradise has come from the border to bite him on the ass. And he was not very politically aware, although he majored in political science in college, but didn't want to see what was all around him because that was just damn inconvenient. And as BZ has been known to be another damned tinfoil hat wearer, until all this crap comes crashing down around the top of your head. And it's already... Don't you realize, folks, what has happened and happening in Europe generally ends up happening here? We watched Muslims take over Europe. 50% of Marseille is Muslim. There's a little bit of pushback, but it's a bit too late from Syria. And we started to warn, if you're not careful, that will happen here. Hello, Dearborn. Hello, Hamtramck. Hello, Michigan. Hello, Omar. Hello, Talib, etc. And now this from the Epoch Times. This is just 2 days ago. Protests rage across Europe as lockdown and vaccination mandates start. Well, the American Media Maggots were trying to tell you it didn't have anything to do with vaccines. These people were they were unwelcome upstarts protesting for crap just right. Because. No. Anti-lockdown and anti-vaccine passport protests are what actually erupted all across Europe on July 24th and longer. Thousands and thousands and thousands of demonstrators came out where? Oh, in London, Dublin, Paris, Rome, Athens, and all across cities in Europe, according to footage and news reports. But you didn't hear about that over here because that keeps the rest of you doped up with TV and cable and oxycodone and fentanyl and all the rest of the crap that comes from the southern border. The Mexican cartels are making $2 million a day on human trafficking. That makes the Biden regime the largest fucking human trafficking organization on the entire planet in the history of the planet. Wake up. The American Media Maggots don't want you to know about any of these things. In the order of life, in the order of articles that you've done, Kari Baxter Donovan, are there other incidents and situations that you'd like to tell everybody about? From articles that you have written?
Well, so, it's hope springs eternal, right? So we have all these problems. We know we're going in this direction. We don't know how it's going to come to a head, but something's going to have to come to a head at some point. So what are things that are to be done? So two things that I've been writing about.
Okay.
One of them is Trevor Loudon, who is a friend of mine, and he was on the War Room this week. And he's an expert on Marxism and communism all through the world. He's from New Zealand originally, and he's like obsessed with telling people all of the who's a communist in D.C. His book is White House Reds, his latest one. And anyway, I thought it was interesting and hopeful that he was on War Room with Steve Bannon. And this is something that I call Trevor out every once in a while. I'll call him up and say, Trevor, is there any chance that we could beat a communist revolution, right? And so he'll tell me, Kari, and I love he's New Zealand. He's got an accent. I love the way he says my name. Anyway, he was telling me the whole story. So Bannon asked him, is it inevitable? Can we beat the CCP? And Trevor said, yes, we have 80 million Trump voters. We have 20 million who wish that they were Trump voters, and we have God. So what we need is for people to be brave who have office. And I wanted to add in another thing that I'm writing about is Committee Man Project, the strategy to take over the GOP. So there are people, a lot of people who have different ideas
You told me about
the
this.
GOP.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was excited because it gives us something to do, and we're seeing some success. If we could get people to do it all over the country, is to join the party, join the GOP, and go, in the minute you get there, try to figure out how to be a neighborhood team leader or a precinct committee man or woman. And basically that gives you a vote for the party, and then you get to start voting people in and out in the party. The party influences one of two candidates. We have to take that party over. So there are people who are having success around in different places of actually chasing rhinos out of the party by having all these America First kinds of Trump supporters, people who are sick of it show up, right? There are audits going on. There is a large gathering of people on Telegram who are talking about audits. You see that there are people who are pushing back on CRT, finding legislative ways to make lawmakers back off. Of course, this isn't just going to happen overnight, and it's just not easy, but we need brave people, and we need a whole bunch of people standing up. So we're not alone in knowing that there are things going on, and we're not even alone in working to keep pushing back at it. There are still people who have hope that we can get our country back. Listening to these stories, sometimes it's just like, oh my gosh, is it completely over? Well, no,
it's not.
It's not completely over.
I don't believe that at all.
Right?
But the reason that I do this, though, anymore, once I get moved and settled in, I hope to have a show at least an hour, maybe 5 days a week. I'll wait and see how that goes. But the reason I do that and do this is to let people know, because you are purposely mushroomed, people. You're kept in the dark and fed shit and told that you are the misinformation. And
right.
I'm here to let you know
realize
that there are alternate views. And
there are alternate views, and there are places where people are who are going and digging for information. So I'm on this audit channel, right? I'm on this audit channel for North Carolina.
Okay.
And I'm talking to people who are running around in circles, they light their hair on fire, and I keep telling them, you guys, we are in the process of starting an audit in North Carolina. And they don't even know that. Well, how come the media is not covering it? I'm like, well, how come you're not reading my articles then? Because here they are. Going back to September, I was talking about what this thing is leading into, and so there's a lot of people who are looking in the wrong place too. So look for independent media. So there's this audit thing I think is very interesting that they're talking about lockdowns at the same exact time that Mike Lindell is doing this cyber symposium, which I personally don't think there were a lot of votes that were switched. Like, I don't get that thing, but what I do think is they were using connections to go and search out how many votes they needed to create, is what I think happened. And I think that they're going to prove that at the cyber symposium. And they're going to show, Mike Lindell insists that Trump got 20 million more votes than Biden, and that when it comes out that they're going to panic, right, that they're going to have to do something about it. I wrote an article about here in North Carolina because there's a race where somebody was declared the winner, and then the absentee ballots were discovered to be faulty and corrupt. So they had a completely new election here in North Carolina. That happened 2 years ago, recently, okay? So there's precedent for us to have a new election. I noticed that there's a whole lot of activity around this vaccinations and the shutdown. Of course, I have been so hopeful. I think I told you, like, I have a problem. I think that the knight in shining armor is going to come and rescue me. I'm a woman. Of course I believe that, right? And I've been to town quite a few times. So this is where I'm uncomfortable. I don't know which way it's going to go. I know what I hope for. I know what I see logically, but I'm not sure, right? And I'm kind of just in a free fall like everyone else. I'm sort of in a free fall waiting for, like, is that the moment that everyone's going to freak out and something's going to change? We don't know what that moment is or when it's coming or how much agony we're going to have to suffer through before we get to that point. So it's Brave New World. So going and finding people with alternative points of view or who are independent media searching out these stories on a smaller state level, I think is helpful. So hopefully, yeah, you'll do your show once a day when you get settled in Idaho.
The thing
Can I talk your ear off?
I know that, and that's why I have you here. The thing I think
Okay, I didn't rant on. Sometimes get on a rant.
That's okay. I believe that this is what has happened. Some people, some elements, the great minority thought that they would somehow be able to storm the Capitol and manage to convince Mike Pence that he needed to bow to pressure. So what happened is that, in truth, they weren't very damn effective at all because Congress resumed just a couple hours after all of that. Both chambers then certified the Electoral College results. And with that, the Electoral College was certified, and with both houses voting, Biden was decided that he would be the next president. I don't believe that that is going to be overturned on procedure. I think what's going to happen eventually, clearly, in my opinion, before 4 years, is that Biden is going to end up taking himself out, or the Demorats themselves will pull a 25th and kick him out in any event.
And Kamala is a full-blown communist, so...
She's about as intelligent as a thumbtack.
Right, well, she's the which anyway, the wind blows.
And as intelligent as, and likable as. So what people are doing now, I think, are they're trying to do their level best to secure whatever manner of voting they can right now. Because if H.R. 1 passes and the federal government gets into every make and manner of voting, they will have almost guaranteed an achievement of superiority in perpetuity in the United States of America. That's not what this country was designed around.
And that brings me to a point. So this is one of the reasons why I called Trevor the other night, and I said, "Hey, Trevor, listen, I got this idea. And everybody's going to call me a harebrained, but I want to know what you think." And I said, I think that some of this thing that they've created goes back to Shelby County versus Holder. That was in 2013, and it was a Supreme Court decision that basically said you can't keep calling everything racist. This isn't all racist. So it was a Voting Rights Act, okay? And it was like a rider or something in the Voting Rights Act that said you can't keep calling everything racist. So it gave states back some power. And here in North Carolina is when we voted for voter ID. And we voted for it like 2 or 3 times, and Holder kept coming back in and threatening to sue us. And it was like, well, Shelby County versus Holder, you lost, get over it. So I said, hey, Trevor, what do you think? I think a lot of this kabuki theater and what Stacey Abrams is doing is to cover up the fact that they don't want to accept the Supreme Court ruling from 2013. That's how long we've been dealing with them and their nonsense over elections. So he said he thought that was a pretty good idea. And I was really excited because I wanted him to like it and not call me a nut job. I think there's a lot to that. And I feel like if people understood all of this nonsense about how they have to make us look racist, right, in order to claim we need to do all of these things because you all are so racist. And that's why all of those voting things that they're trying to do need to be thrown out. I don't even understand because there's already a Supreme Court ruling.
Well, I distilled it down. What do we got? I got 8 more minutes before the end of the show. I distilled it down this way. It's the criminal's rule. It's the criminal theory. And that's why I believe that leftist Demorats and the American Media Maggots are frequently no better than criminals, thugs. And the criminal theory goes this way. What's mine is mine, and what's yours is mine, unless you have the power to stop me. Now, because I speak leftist, I'll translate that for you. What that means is they will do anything and everything they can until someone with standing stops them. The DOJ just recently said that it was going to stamp on the states that wanted to go back to pre-COVID voting. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. Yes, they can. Until you stop them. Until someone gets a backbone and says no, and with masses behind them, just doesn't allow that to occur. Which is why what you say when you mention...
And it's weird, yeah.
All politics is local. All journalism is local. That's how you got your start, Kari Baxter Donovan.
It's true.
It is true. You and I had a tete-a-tete about 5 days ago, where essentially what I said was, you had a great idea, you took the football and you ran with it, which is one of the reasons that I like to hear you on the show. And that was this: a citizen journalist can unearth things that other people don't care to see. And that was, you had a great idea. Well, a guy had a great idea in World War II and made millions. And that was this. I'm using a strange analogy here, but roll with me just for a moment. All these planes came back from World War II, and they were parked in boneyards, and some were gotten rid of, and some were sent for scrap. So this guy got a great idea back when you could do this. You know what? If I drain all this extremely high-octane avgas out of these airplanes, maybe I can sell it. No one else had that idea, and that guy made a lot of coin. Great idea. And then all of a sudden, a Kari Baxter Donovan comes around and says, you know, what do all these dickweeds throw out on a daily basis? Oh, I know. Press releases, which nobody really reads unless you know how to read them and you can understand what they say. And then you discovered that in truth, there really were a lot of really trendy, tasty political morsels ensconced within a lot of those public affairs releases. And correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't that kind of how you got your start to citizen journalism? Press releases. Well, anybody can get those, but not everybody understands the obvious when it's standing in front of them. Huh.
That is funny. Yeah, it's funny that you remember that story because I've gotten a lot of stories from press releases, and yeah, at the time I remember thinking I could have done this so long ago, but I assumed that everybody knew what was in the press releases, so I let it go, and then I started writing about the press releases. Yep, that's awesome.
And so the obvious sits in front of us, I submit. And the obvious is people don't want to understand or see what's truly happening in front of your face, because it would disabuse you of thinking that we're better than that. That doesn't happen in America. That doesn't happen to Americans. We're better than that.
Right.
You'd best adjust your perspective, folks. Because there was I can't even think who sang it, but there was a song, and one of the refrains went, "It can't happen here. It can't happen here." Oh, yeah, it can. Oh, yeah, it can, because you will never stop having some individual, male or female, who thinks, somebody somewhere just didn't get the details right on communism or socialism. They weren't me. I'll be the first one to make this shit work. Said no communist or socialist whatsoever, because no real communist or socialist state succeeds today, except in the anniversary of 100 years of communism, where over 100 million people, actually closer to 175 million people, were killed in the name of communism. Because it's an idea so good, you gotta build a wall to keep people inside. Huh? That's brilliant. And with that, I think I've run out of room. I think I've run out of time. Kari Baxter Donovan, would you come back?
Of course. I love coming back to talk to you. So anytime, and hopefully soon, you'll be in your new dig and we can chat there.
I think that would be wonderful, because already my show, audio only, crashed once tonight, and I had to start it back up again, so that means I'm going to have to try to sew both aspects of the show together later in editing or back in social media. So is there a place, Kari Baxter Donovan, where people can find you and read you if they want to?
Well, most of my articles are at djhjmedia.com, which is for David Harris Jr. media.com. And then also I'm adding a bunch of articles to frontlineamerica.com, which is Ben Berquam's site. And I'm posting some stuff there about his work on the border. He's an awesome dude. He's a great reporter. He goes down live. He's on Real America's Voice. So he said he tells me all the time, just put stuff up there. Just go ahead. But it's like, Ben, it's like your name. Like, I don't want to be a chucklehead and ruin, your great site. So I try to keep it toned down for David Harris Jr. too, because I don't want to be a chucklehead and get them a bad reputation or something. So, but those are the two places, and at Sayrosa 1776. And thank you so much for having me, because I love chatting with you, and I love catching up with you and hearing your point of view. So, and just like, chilling out and hanging out with you, talking like I'm hanging out at the salon.
Someday when I'm rich and famous, maybe I'll be able to step on the deck of Kari Baxter Donovan's boat. Okay.
Won't that be fun?
Again, tell me, because I think I could not even begin to pronounce it, but that one name that I think started with an S.
Right. Okay.
I think
the name
that was a great name because if you put it on the back of your boat, everybody and their brother and their cousin, fourth removed, will say, what the hell is that? And then you get to explain
There's room. Yeah, and there's room for the gods and all of their weapons. And that is just very important, okay? So that's what it is, Skidbladnir.
Oh, boy, I couldn't begin to spell it. Or you could call it the courageous Skip Vladimir, if I haven't screwed that up.
Oh, I like
too
that.
bad.
Like, I did, because I really had a hard time. And I'm like, what kind of mother is going to say, no, children, you all must sit down and stop having so much fun. It is what I want, you know. So, but it stings me every time. And courageous is just much better. Okay, y'all, Skid Vladimir.
I love that. I love that name. That's like when I tell people about Schadenfreude. It makes everybody go to the dictionary because I love Schadenfreude. Right? I love
and then when they get there, it's like a treasure because it's a fantastic story. And I'm just like, you know, I kind of like that too. I dig the mysteriousness of it. Yeah, I got you. I hear you.
I think it'd be great. The other thing is, before we go, Kari Baxter Donovan, I hope you're considering seriously what you and I spoke about in terms of your next move. I really think that could be a big, capital B, possibility for you.
Well, you're a good friend. Your encouragement is really welcome, and I appreciate it. So I might be just skipping up and down the shoreline and the Outer Banks and writing for Cape Fear Living, which is a lifestyle magazine about boating. I might just pitch political writing altogether. I'm not sure. Or if I don't do that, then I might consider what you and I talked about for sure. Okay. And I really appreciate you. You know I do.
The cool thing is, though, no matter what it is that you decide you're going to write about, the content, because we all know that content is king.
Content is king.
That's right. Oh, that's right. Content and consistency are king, but we already knew that.
Content and consistency. I'll remember that. I'm writing notes.
And so there's nothing that says, as far as I'm concerned, that you can't write on a laptop in your 46-foot sailing vessel.
Exactly. It's my office.
Who's to say that
sail
can't
around
be?
And write.
Because, I mean, you can snatch the internet out of the air, can't you? Somewhere?
Yeah, I actually have a device that helps me get in a new hotspot so that I can. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that was kind of the plan.
Okay,
so I was thinking, you know, I could sail around and like meet boaty kind of people and hear all about their experiences and their lives and write about American history and like totally geek out and be jazzed in my boat. And I could do that and just like sail and listen to the Grateful Dead and drink whiskey and just do whatever I want. I could do that, or I could stay here and bang my head up against the wall and think, why don't people, if I just like present it a different way, if I just like talk about communism and Marxism in a different way, then they'll wake up and then they'll like fight for their liberty and freedom and all of our children will be protected. I don't know. What do you think?
And the microsecond that I started quoting Mussolini, everybody on the other end of this show tonight went...
They did. It lit a fire under their butt, and they jumped up and they said, "That sounds like what we're dealing with." Right? Oh my God, you're really good.
That's what they were thinking, and that's what they were saying. Kari Baxter Donovan, thanks for being here tonight.
Big hugs. Thank you for having me here and letting me be here and chat with you. Can't wait to talk to you again.
Virtual digital hugs back at you, madam.
Monsieur has unlocked.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here. Jesus. No, he's not here right now. On the SHR Media Network. If you want to contact me, you'll find me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter at BZEP, at BZEP. Promotional consideration is by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. Also, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting in about, 5 minutes, since I'm no more than about 15 feet from the refrigerator, as opposed to the old SHR Media Studios, where it would take me a half hour to get home. Bonus. And thank you, Kari Baxter Donovan, for being here tonight. Thanks to everybody for listening live. Thanks to everybody for being involved in the chat room. Thanks for listening in podcast. Thanks to the American Trucker. You keep America moving. God bless. Take care. Be safe. Have a great weekend. All.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.